Oh, hello, friends. Today I bring to you an incredibly in-depth conversation about how to use Instagram for business with the Instagram queen herself, Taylor Loren. Taylor studies social media like nobody's business. She is the content marketing manager at a company called Later, which is a service for scheduling and managing your Instagram accounts. Taylor has a passion for traveling and naturally started a travel blog called Local Wanderer with an Instagram following that is going to hit 65,000 at any second. We cover nearly every aspect of using Instagram for business, including hashtags, stories, the dreaded algorithm, and even some awesome tips for using Instagram Live. There are some deep dive moments, but stick around because there is something for everyone. Also, just a quick reminder that I want to see how many reviews we can get on iTunes. On August 1st, I'm going to pick 2 random reviews and give away 2 Amazon gift cards for $25 each. So go smash that 5-star rating and leave a review if you enjoy the show. Taylor, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So give the people a snapshot of who you are, what you do for work, and what you do for fun.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Taylor Loren, and I'm the content marketing manager at Later. So Later is a leading Instagram marketing platform that helps you schedule Instagram posts, plan your feed, etc. And I also run the Instagram account and travel blog called Local Wanderer. We started that a few years ago with my best friend, and it's grown to success on Instagram. So I feel like my life is very Instagram oriented. And for fun, when I'm not on Instagram, I guess, I'm pretty obsessed with reality TV. It's a really easy way for me to turn my brain off at the end of the day. So, love reality TV, and I'm currently practicing my YouTube skills in my spare time.
Ooh.
So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. It's very intimidating.
Nice. Really? Yeah. You find it intimidating to be on camera?
Oh, yeah. I think just in looking at different YouTube videos and people's personalities, there's so many people that are so naturally good at it. So if you're just trying out, I feel like it's a really high bar.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that. So you mentioned your life being kind of Instagram oriented. I'm super curious. I followed you for a while on Snapchat, and then I felt like I was just so late in the game to Snapchat. So late. I never really adopted it until maybe a couple months before Instagram started doing stories. And once Instagram started doing stories, I really personally had no reason to continue a Snapchat because I had maybe 10 people that I connected with on Snapchat. And it just was an uphill battle to try to find, a following and find my voice on Snapchat. So I'm just curious, total side note here. What are you doing on Snapchat these days? Have you kind of abandoned it, or do you still use Snapchat?
I still use Snapchat. I'm a huge Snapchat fan. I don't think it will die, but I will agree. Yeah. I use Instagram stories a lot more. And when it first came out, I really fought it because I was such a diehard Snapchat fan.
Yes.
But Instagram stories is definitely my first place now. It's now the first place that I not only consume content, but will also post it. Yeah. I think that I really enjoy Snapchat though, because it's just more of a closed loop, I feel, versus Instagram. My views are hundreds of views and I have no idea who's really watching them, versus on Snapchat. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it's true. I also have a lot of people on Snapchat, so I don't really know who's watching them as much, but it's a lot smaller now.
Sure. Oh, interesting. So yeah, you definitely had a following already on Snapchat when Snapchat was, still the rising star. So you had been on it for a while and had already kind of, gained your following, and then Instagram kind of, stirred the pot and did their stories kind of thing. So anyway, I was just kind of curious to see if Snapchat was still going for you. I happen to agree. I feel like for me, Instagram is basically where I spend most of my social media time consuming and contributing and interacting with people. As you mentioned, you work for a company called Later, and that's how I discovered you and your work and the content that you provide to the Later subscribers, and even those who don't subscribe to Later, you produce a lot of free content, whether it's blog posts or Facebook Lives or, emails. And I found all of that information incredibly helpful. I felt like I already knew Instagram pretty well. And then I discovered Later and started reading more and more about it. And I feel like you guys always keep me on the cutting edge of what's going on with Instagram.
Good, and that's our goal.
Yeah, I feel like the moment there's an update, I know about it because I've got an email in my inbox and it tells me exactly how to leverage that feature to my advantage. So anyway, just give people a quick understanding of what Later is and how they can use it in their business.
Yeah, so Later is, like I said before, it's a leading Instagram marketing platform. So basically, we like to use like marketing platform instead of app because our product is really strong on the web, and it's not, there's a lot of Instagram schedulers out there that can just help you do the basic tasks, but we are always coming up with like more and more features to help you manage all aspects of your Instagram. So obviously, scheduling Instagram posts is a huge component of what Later is, but we also have, a really awesome tool called Search and Repost, which lets you manage UGC on any of your hashtags, and you can add it to your media library, and it's a really good way to store and organize all your photos. And it also makes it really easy to manage multiple Instagram accounts in one place. So if lots of people these days are running multiple Instagram accounts, so it's a really good place to separate your content and make sure everything's really organized. But I do know that lots of photographers, for example, make up a big part of your audience, obviously. I know that it is a struggle for a lot of photographers to commit to getting organized for their Instagram. And I think a lot of people feel like it's such a big, overwhelming task that they just don't even want to start. But I think we make it really easy to, once you log in and you're comfortable with the product, it's pretty easy to keep all your photos in the same place and plan your feed and then schedule your posts, keep track of your hashtags, etc.
I found Later so amazing. Now, when I discovered Later, I think I was in the mindset of Instagram still being a tool that you use kind of on the go, right? You snap a photo of something that looks interesting. You walk by a mural. You have an amazing lunch before you. So you just kind of snap whatever happens in front of you, and that's what goes on Instagram. But let's keep the quality, nice. Of course, then there's, the photography accounts, the business accounts where you're trying to promote your business or service or something. And I still felt those were Instagram was maybe a tool to use when the moment, when you feel inspired, here's a moment, I'm going to put that on Instagram. And discovering Later and the idea of scheduling really changed my perspective about using Instagram for business. For example, one thing that I loved was the planner, the visual planner. So, or I guess not the planner, but the visual, feedback that you get when you put some proposed posts up in Later, then you can visually see what your feed is going to look like, and you can sequence them and make sure that everything is going to look beautiful when somebody goes to your profile, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a huge part of Instagram. And I think the good thing is that a lot of people are recognizing that the aesthetic of your feed is more and more important. So people are now looking to tools to help them do that, versus maybe even just a year ago or more, it was more just the Instagrammer types that were very aware of their feed.
Right.
But now I think everyone is. So I think it's a good thing for the platform in general. And then, definitely if you want to be successful on Instagram, you have to, the reality is now is you have to be organized and you have to treat it like a job and like a business, Right.
And the other thing that I found extremely useful that really helped me use Instagram more as a business marketing tool was that now I felt so much more free to craft meaningful captions. I always felt very limited when I would sit down to post something on Instagram from my phone. Okay. Like Instagram makes it so that you can only post from your phone. And I just felt like with my, fat fingers trying to type out a meaningful caption while I'm getting notifications or a phone call or interruptions, I never felt like my captions really were that stunning when I typed it out on the phone. But when I can sit at a computer, sit on my laptop here and type out something thoughtful, and even, do spacing or whatever I need to do to break it up and create a caption that's more, eloquent and more refined. That for me was honestly one of the biggest breakthroughs. And I've told some of your team about this, that I feel bad that I don't even use probably 10% of what Later can really do for me. I love being able to throw, 10 photos into Later and then be able to craft a great caption for each one of those and make sure I've got great, research already on my hashtags. And then, everything's ready to go. And so just to give people an idea of how Later works, when you load it on the website or on the web in your dashboard, you get a notification on your phone to go to that app, to the Later app, and it tells you have a post that's ready. Of course, it's scheduled whenever you want it to be scheduled, and then you go to that app. It copies the caption or what would that be called? It is a caption, right?
It is a caption. Yeah.
So it copies a caption to your clipboard, and then you just go to Instagram. It already has the image ready for you. You paste the caption, and you're ready to go. You just hit post, and it's done. That's what I love about Later. So, and like I said, I know I'm probably using a small percentage of it, but anyway, I'm a huge fan of Later, and I'm a huge fan of all the stuff that you guys have done to educate people on how to use Instagram a little bit better. I'm just curious too, in your background, was there ever a moment where you kind of realized where the light bulb went off that you could make a living off of helping people do social media well?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, it's just been almost my entire career. So I remember sitting in my senior year of high school, which was almost 10 years ago, and using Facebook in class. And I just remember thinking, like, this is so cool. Like, there's must be people that work at Facebook, obviously, right? And I was just like, wow, maybe I could work at Facebook one day. And I was just like, but it didn't have any recollection of any, social media wasn't even a word then. It was just Facebook, And so when I went to college, I actually started a blog with one of my friends. This is a recurring theme of my life, always having a different blog to work on. But we started a blog. And it actually grew to be the biggest blog on campus, and it was getting more traffic than the school newspaper was. And that was all through Twitter and Facebook. And I think that was the light bulb moment for me when I realized that this is an actually powerful platform for people, and that, but not only that, but realizing this could make me money one day. Being good at this could be a job. So I ended up working in social media education while I was in college, and dropped out to keep doing that. So I've been working in this space for a long time, and even when I just I've taken time off to kind of go off and start my own business, it always keeps coming back. And I think it's just something, I just love making other people feel empowered to succeed. And that's with whatever you're doing. And I think social media is something that if you are successful at it, or you feel knowledgeable, you're going to feel more empowered to go and use it. And it really can change your life. It can change a whole business. There's so many businesses that are just built around even just Instagram, whole brands live and die by the platform. And so if you can yourself learn the tools to be successful at it, it's life changing. So I think that's just what I think is really cool, is just helping other people feel empowered and feel like they can do it themselves. I would say a few years ago, it was really all about social media managers. But now social media is less of a job and more of a skill that is valuable whether it's as an employee or it's running your own business, So a lot of later users, they are running like a mom and pop shop or an online store, and like they're having to learn how to use Instagram to market their business.
Can you think of a story of a business owner who was maybe struggling with Instagram, couldn't quite figure it out, but you saw them turn the corner and find some success with their business and Instagram?
Yeah, that's definitely a hard question, but I have maybe 2 examples, and I can't say I'm like super accurate on it. So to the people I'm talking about, if this isn't 100%, I apologize. But one example that comes to mind is my friend Jamie. So she runs a handful of businesses down in Palm Springs, and so she has 2 Airbnb boutique hotels that are like super gorgeous, just like a coffee shop and a bar, like all these different things. But it all started with her first Airbnb property. And I believe this was quite a few years ago now, but I think she had opened it and it wasn't really having the success that she had envisioned, because she'd put all this work into making this stunning, beautiful property. And so she was talking with her friend, and basically I think she just invited her friend with and their friends, and there was basically all these Instagram influencers to like have a free stay for the weekend, and everyone was posting about it and everything. And then all of a sudden it was just like boom, her Instagram or her bookings just blew up, and she was really full all the time. And so we got to see that spot. It's called the Amato early on as well, and we posted about it on Local Wanderer. But then as her businesses grew, I think they realized, okay, we have to really invest in Instagram. And so they have a great girl working with them now. And, all the Instagrams for all of their properties are so great and just evoke that like really awesome branded Palm Springs colorful vibe. And they're all super successful businesses now. So that's one example.
That's great. That's good to hear.
Another would be my friends have a really awesome lifestyle blog, and a few years ago, I think they just naturally kind of did well at Instagram because it was like lifestyle content and they take really pretty photos, but they weren't taking the execution of it that seriously, like they would just post whenever they felt like it and like wouldn't really plan things out or think about the aesthetics of the feed. And now for the last little while, they've been using Later, and, they've seen a huge like increase in their followers and engagement, and their feed just looks, amazing. And like, they're really like putting the time into planning it. And it's just, just that little bit of effort, even that like 30 minutes to an hour a week to just sit down and get it all done can make such a big difference, with your bottom line.
And I think that's a huge point that you just made right there, is that they carve out some time to manage their socials, right? Like, I think so many business owners, I do it myself. So many business owners look at their Instagram or their Facebook and they go, oh gosh, I got to get some content together for this. And they don't carve out specific time each week. This is not a Later commercial. This episode is not sponsored by Later. But again, like one thing that I love about Later is that if I'm going to be away from the desk or I have something that I need to promote on one of the socials that I manage, it makes sense for me because I can sit down, I can gather together the content, I can load it up in Later, and then I can have it trickle out throughout the week. That way I'm not consumed with thinking about it all week long. Oh, I forgot to put a post up today. Right? Yeah. So it's nice to be able to say, okay, for the next 2 hours, I'm going to create content. I'm going to gather content and I'm going to schedule it out over the week. And then, you're hard at work and you get a notification. Hey, you have a post that's ready, and you just make that post and it's done. That has been one of the greatest things about actually being conscious about managing the socials, is that it relieves your mind a little bit, right? Like you're free to just go about your business and do your thing. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And you can really be present, but I understand the struggle, like for for my blog's Instagram account, I run it with my friend. So, we try to do that, but it's not realistic every week. And then, you have weeks like this week where it's every day at like 8:00. We're like, okay, which photo do you want to post? And like, out of all these different ones, and like, okay, do you want to post it or do I? Like, here's the caption. And it's like very draining to do that every day at like 8:00, especially when it's summer and it's light out here in Canada for so late. So you're just like just sitting down to eat, and the last thing you want to be doing then is, be stressing about your Instagram. And I think it's also important, like, everyone is inspired at different times, and sometimes you're just like, oh my gosh, I do not want to like post to Instagram, and you're not into it. So you can, be aware enough to, when you are feeling really inspired, to like edit your photos for Instagram or something, to just do a whole chunk of it then. And then same thing, like what you were talking about with captions, is it's like, even if you plan out all your posts and schedule them, but you haven't written in the captions yet, like come back and later in the afternoon or the next day when you're feeling like more in the writing mode to like,
for sure. I love that idea, because there are definitely times in the week where I feel more creative, and I would be more inclined to put that together. Like in the morning for me is probably my favorite time to do the creative stuff. Afternoon, I can bang out 1,000 emails because it takes less brain power for me. But early in the morning or, kind of before noon for me makes the most sense. So I can sit down before noon and make these posts and be very deliberate and conscious about them. You watch Instagram. I mean, that's kind of your job, and you create content for people, every day. And so I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the things that stick out to you that are kind of the worst misuses or misunderstandings of the platform? How do businesses fail when they use Instagram?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I know. Call them out. It's okay.
Well, I think the first one, which is very obvious to the photographer community, but the first one is like stealing content or not giving proper credit. It's happened to me a lot with like huge brands, and it's just a super disappointing experience, especially if it's a brand you really want to work with, and then they just take your photo. But you see a lot of stuff too where people will be like, photo credit Pinterest, and it's like, that's not photo credit. Like, if you really can't find, like, you can do reverse Google image search and usually find like an original source. Or if you can't, you can be like source unknown, but like, do you know who took this photo or something like that, So I think that's just a huge fail, and it just reflects so poorly on your brand. I guess the second is just, posting anything that is off brand. So if your Instagram account is like your personal account, like do whatever you want. I'm definitely someone who doesn't think that every person has to have like a personal brand. But if you're using Instagram for business, you need to have a little bit of restraint and make sure that if you may like totally love a photo, but if it doesn't go with your feed and it doesn't make sense for your business, like you need to have the restraint to say no and to not post it, or like post it in like a second photo and a multi-photo or something like that, because I think sometimes you just see stuff that's just, you look and you're like, why am I seeing this on this account? It doesn't have anything to do with what I'm following them for.
Sure. And this brings up an idea, a question rather. So I observe in our community a couple of things. One is that I see some photographers really struggle with the idea of, this account. What does it represent? They want it to represent their business, but yet they also want to post personal photos there. What I've seen some people do is they will post on their feed the refined, the beautiful, the stuff that they want their potential clients to see. And then they use stories to be more of the behind the scenes, more of the casual kind of stuff. Yes, here's me at the beach. Here's me with my friends, that kind of thing. What would you advise to a photographer who's maybe struggling with this concept of like, should I use my Instagram for business only? Should I integrate some of my personality here? Does that work to my advantage? How would you advise a photographer on that topic?
Yeah, I know that's definitely a struggle for everyone. I read a really cool article the other day that said Instagram is the new homepage. In the sense that people are now, if you hear about a brand, instead of turning to Google, they're turning to Instagram. Mm-hmm. And so what you see on your feed, your first 9 posts and your Instagram bio are just as important nowadays as, your landing page photo on your website or your headline there, So mm-hmm. I think it's important that you never know who's looking at your work at any time. So you definitely want it to you want it to still be high quality. So if it's a beautiful photo, but if you're a wedding photographer and it's a beautiful photo and it's of just a regular person, that's fine, I think, as long as it's a beautiful photo and it doesn't have mm-hmm. to be of someone at a wedding. But if it's more of a grainy, not so high quality photo that doesn't reflect your skills as a photographer, mm-hmm. then I think it's better to not post that.
Sure.
On your feed, but definitely supplement with stories. I mean, I post way less to Instagram now, but I'm way more active on the platform because I'm posting on stories mm-hmm. all the time.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a super awesome way, and people are really engaging with them, and such a nice way to, get to know the person behind the lens as well.
Totally.
So,
yeah, I agree. It's interesting. And another episode, I was talking with a photographer who helps other photographers when it comes to their branding. And one of the beefs that I have with photographers is that too many times you go to their website and you go to the about page and there's no photo of the photographer. You don't know who's going to be showing up at your photo shoot. It's just this mystery.
A photo of them that's really far away with their head tilted to the side that you also can't tell.
Yes, or they're hiding behind a camera. They're holding the camera up to the mirror or something. I get it. It's kind of clever, but I think that extends to using Instagram as well. I think that maybe, in my opinion, maybe a photographer shouldn't use it purely only as just their best work. They should also integrate their personality somehow. I think that people who are shopping for a photographer should see some of the personality of the person that they're going to work with. And, I think that can be done well with stories because they're just kind of quick little bits, and you get to see, maybe a little bit of the things that interest your photographer that's, maybe away from a photo shoot. Maybe you're a photographer who also happens to be really into cars, or you're really into jewelry or whatever. And maybe a potential client would connect with something like that. And they go, oh, I love that stuff. I'm a fan of that stuff too. And now you have something to talk about. So I think it gives more opportunity for your potential clients to see really who you are and who they're going to be working with. So, I mean, I get it. I
totally agree. I mean, I was looking for a wedding photographer recently, and that's a really intimate thing, and you want to make sure that they're the type of people that just get you and jive with you and that you connect, because it's such a intimate experience to have someone shooting your wedding. And I ended up getting one of my really good friends to do it, but still it's you definitely want to be able to see their personality for sure.
Hey, a quick break just to let you know that this show is brought to you by Essential Edit, editing and design for photographers just like you. Yes, Lightroom editing, retouching, and album design, all done to your spec, your style, so that you can focus on the essentials of your business. Instead of dreading the edit, spend that time booking more clients, networking with vendors, or spending more time with the people you love. It's super affordable, 3 to 5 day turnaround, friendliest service on the planet, and yes, satisfaction is always guaranteed. Let's get you started. Send us some sample images at essentialedit.com. Enjoy the rest of the show. So let's talk about hashtags. Okay, I know this is kind of for some people, they don't use hashtags. They're not quite sure how to use hashtags. They think they're ugly. And along with the worst misuses, I see people misuse hashtags pretty well. So how would you suggest that somebody uses hashtags effectively? So talk to me about the hashtag strategy, and even just kind of give us a quick intro on hashtags for those who might not really be that familiar with them.
Yes. Well, first off, hashtags are super controversial right now, I think.
Right.
So I have a bit of don't know, maybe a it's not so popular opinion on hashtags. Have you heard about the Instagram shadow ban?
I have.
Yeah. So for anyone listening that isn't aware, basically lately, if you are doing any kind of like spammy activity on Instagram, they'll basically make your posts not visible on hashtags. So if you tagged your photo with hashtag trees and you go to hashtag trees, you'll see the photo there, but other people, because you're logged in, but other people won't see your photo. So if you check it on another account. This is also a very controversial subject in the Instagram space right now. But basically, Instagram has now said that spammy behavior includes using repetitive hashtags. So, I mean, I don't think that that's spammy behavior, but Instagram does. And I think
so using repetitive hashtags, meaning that every single one of your posts has the same batch of hashtags. Is that what they mean?
Yeah, so there's not a ton of detail into what constitute repetitive, but yeah, essentially, you know, if you're using the same group of hashtags or the same one hashtag multiple times, as I think if you know, most people, if they're maximizing their 30 hashtags, are using similar hashtags each time.
Totally.
But that can actually be harming your account more than helping it now. So I kind of right now am suggesting people, you know, use like 1 to 3 hashtags that are very targeted and very specific.
Yeah.
And definitely avoid using any ones that are like really generic, like hashtag sunshine. And, you know, Instagram also has this list of banned hashtags, and some of them you would have no idea are banned. Like, for example, hashtag with the camera emoji is a banned
really?
hashtag. So if you're using that one, your post is going to do as well.
So it just doesn't show up on that. Now, are there any photos that show up if you click that hashtag camera emoji?
I don't know. Honestly, I've never done it before. I was just reviewing a list the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was one. But yeah, there's
repetitive hashtags are a little concerning, and for me in one sense, because one of the accounts that I manage is for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym where I train. So I manage their social media. I'm their in-house photographer. And, you know, among the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, there are some certain hashtags that a lot of people surf to just kind of go see what's going on in the community. So like, you know, BJJ for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or Jiu-Jitsu lifestyle, or Jiu-Jitsu. You know, there's several that I use commonly, and I know for sure that it's just, you know, that we get followers because of those hashtags. So I didn't realize that the repetitive thing was a part of the shadow ban deal as well. So that means, of course, the game changes again. Now I've got to find unique hashtags that will still get me some visibility.
Yeah, and I think it does depend on how large the hashtags are. So, you know, if they're smaller hashtags, I think that like that's better. You know, if we have our own hashtags and stuff, but we stopped using hashtags like altogether on Local Wanderer for a few weeks because we were just seeing like a crazy decrease in engagement. So I'm pretty sure we were shadow banned, and we stopped using hashtags altogether, and within about 2 weeks, we've seen our engagement get back up again. And so now we're using them a lot more selectively.
Wow, and that's crazy. I didn't realize.
Yeah, but, you know, the same thing is we get such little information from Instagram, and they have confirmed the hashtag issue. They issued like a Facebook post about it, and then they later deleted it. So I don't know.
Thanks,
that,
Instagram.
It's on the later blog if you search for it, or search shadow ban. We have the screenshots. But yeah, it is hard because there isn't that much information. So, you know, there's this like line between like wanting to tell people about these things going on, but not having like a ton of information, or like, I guess you could say like solid proof. So you don't want to like scare people, but I do think that in general, Instagram is very community oriented, and they always talk about like, to be successful, you know, you have to like story tell and build a community, which is for sure true. So I think my guess would be like, I don't think they're huge fans of the, you know, first comment with 30 hashtags kind of thing that and it just got so popular. But I do recognize that like hashtags are also really important for getting your posts out there and stuff. But I'm now into the like location tagging. I like location tag everything. And even if you do just a general location tag, like of a city, that can really help you. Help.
I had a guy named David Pomfret on the show, one of my first shows. He is a travel photographer. A designer gone travel photographer. And he said that one of the things that he does is, when he goes to a cool location somewhere in Bali or whatever, he doesn't actually tag the specific location. He just tags Bali, so that he actually gets more visibility that way than tagging the hotel or resort that he stayed at, which I thought was really interesting. Love that now this is actually a feature of stories. When you tag a place, location in your stories, I'm actually really enjoying going through looking at stories. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, so it was fun to look at the other stories that were happening at the location. I have to be honest, I don't really look at hashtags that often. The only time I really look at hashtags is if I go somewhere unique and I just kind of want to see what else has gone on there, just see some other images. But personally, I don't use hashtags that much to discover new things. Unless I'm being very specific about it. I sometimes will surf them just for fun, but I don't really find myself looking at them, but I do find myself looking at the locations more than anything. So it is interesting how it's maybe shifting towards location-based tagging instead of the hashtags. And I feel like, you know, there is some discovery and there's some engagement with people. I went to Fiji a few weeks ago. Discovered somebody else who was in Fiji who was doing some cool stuff, and had just, you know, I started following them and we started connecting and talking about what are you doing in Fiji? Hey, what were you doing in Fiji? And so, you know, it did create some community because there were some authentic conversations going on there. It wasn't some kind of spammy type of like, hey, check out my account, you know, kind of thing. It was just a very real type of thing. We had been to some of the same places, so it was easy to connect. So that's an interesting observation. I'm going to think more about that and probably use that a little bit more. I noticed only recently, and I know it's kind of crazy, but it probably happened a long time ago. When did Instagram take away that feature where you could click on, the map for the users? It's gone completely.
Yeah,
right?
It is gone. Yeah. I was so heartbroken when that happened. So hard. Because obviously, like, running a travel Instagram account, you know, like, I would always just tell people, like, oh, go on our map and you'll see all our LA places. What we ended up doing for that was creating, like, specific hashtags for each city. So that's an easier way, I guess. People can, you know, see all of our spots in LA by, like, searching Hey Now LA kind of thing. But cool. I know, I think it was like a year ago when that happened. But because you see it on your own, I think. No, wait, maybe not. I
don't think I do, but I
think it's gone altogether. Yeah. And they replaced it with
your
saving.
Your saved ones. Yeah, I thought, you know, it's probably a smart move because I do remember thinking, oh, this is a little creepy. Like, people can just go to my map and see where I was recently. Like, it's a little too close to home. But now that it's gone, I actually feel more free to tag a place on my posts. Because I'm not so worried about somebody just looking at my map and like tracing my, you know, like we all kind of think of this Jason Bourne movie kind of stuff where somebody's tracking me or whatever. Maybe you don't, I don't know. Just maybe it's my weird psychosis.
No, it definitely is like a security risk. And I think before too, like it would, you know, it could show your location that isn't tagged, that just where you posted the photo. So that shows like your house and stuff. And so, yeah. So I agree with Instagram. You know, maybe that was a smart move in taking that away. And I like the way that it is being handled now with the, you know, with the location tags and stuff. So that's pretty cool. What would you,
So this kind of goes along a little bit. I mean, we're talking about hashtags. So hashtags being that filtered view where you can click on a hashtag and see all the photos with that same hashtag. How is that affecting engagement and reach and that kind of stuff? And that goes along with the algorithm. So the algorithm is something that came out a while back, and everybody was really upset about it because, they follow a group of people because they want to see those people's photos. And so now, I remember everybody just crying and belly aching about it for days.
Still do.
I know. I hate to reference Gary Vee so much, but I love Gary Vee, and he said something that resonated with me a while back on one of his podcast episodes. He said something to the effect of like, the game is always going to be changing. You got to take advantage of those moments when nobody's using that new feature, when nobody's using, this change in the platform. You have to take advantage of those moments to leverage it to your advantage. You can be the first in your space using that to your advantage. Well, the algorithm is kind of hard to do that. So I did embrace it on one hand, because I'm of that mindset. Like, the moment Instagram changes something, let me figure out how to game the system legally and make sure that we play well. But at the same time, I'm not so sure about the algorithm. I'm not sure how I can really use it to my advantage. One thing I've seen is that when the algorithm came out, what was kind of interesting is seeing how the content had more of a shelf life. It was beyond the maybe 10 hours that it was posted, or 24 hours that it was posted. So there would still be comments and likes maybe 2-3 days later or more. So in one sense, I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I get it. Like, somebody leaves a comment 10 days after it was posted, and now it starts seeing more traction because that person commented, somebody else liked, and like, you can tell that there's something going on in the software that's serving it to more people. What are your thoughts on the algorithm? What would you advise anybody how would you advise someone to think about the algorithm?
Yeah, well, definitely think about it as a challenge, I guess. Yeah. You definitely just need to understand how it works. And I agree. The algorithm has definitely extended the life of your posts. So you don't have to feel the need to post as often. That being said, lately, reach, impressions, engagement has just been tanking on Instagram. Yeah. So while your post may have a longer life, it's getting less reach. So something that I've been, we're trying out here at Later is, okay, if all of our posts are getting half the reach that they were getting before, maybe we should try doubling our post frequency. So, the next couple of weeks, we're going to be trying posting twice a day and seeing, versus before, I would have said maybe that would decrease.
Interesting.
It would hurt a post in the algorithm. Yeah. But now I'm thinking, the algorithm is always changing.
Sure, it's a mystery.
Best practices, really, because I feel like it's changing a lot. But
essentially, this conversation about the algorithm will be outdated by the time this podcast is produced, right?
Yeah. But there are 3 really key factors that you should know about the algorithm. So, and just how it works. So the first one is engagement, which is likes and comments. And basically, the sooner that you're able to amass a lot of likes and comments on your post, this then gives Instagram a signal boost that this is awesome, important content that should be then served to more people. Sure. So that's why posting, at your optimized times per day is still really important, because you want to post when the most people are online. And even though your post will be shown to people for longer than an hour, you still want to garner as much engagement on your post in a short amount of time as possible. So that's why, Instagram comment pods and like pods are so popular right now, because they do work. And it's so funny. I wrote this article about this about a year ago, because I realized that teens were doing this on Kylie Jenner's Instagram posts.
Oh my gosh, I remember that one. And I actually did it too. It was so fun to play around with that.
Yeah, it was a super weird thing, but basically,
okay, so fill people in on that, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, if you go to pretty much any of the Kardashians' Instagrams, but namely Kylie and Kendall, you'll see a ton of comments that are either say first or LB. And I was like, what is this? I need to investigate this. And so I realized, after talking to some teens, that first doesn't actually mean that they think that they're getting the first comment.
Right.
Which is what I thought. First means if you like their first photo, they'll like your first photo.
Yeah.
And LB means like back. So same thing, but less specific. So basically, if you see all these teens that comment like LB on Kylie Jenner's Instagram, if you go on all of their pages and like one of their photos, they will all then go on your page and like all of your photos, or like 1 or 2 or 3 or however many of theirs you liked.
Yeah.
And
there's a whole hidden language to this.
Yeah, it's super funny and weird. And Kylie Jenner actually like turned off comments for a long time because of this, but they're back now.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's kind of what made I started doing this, and I started seeing that my posts were performing a lot better. And that's kind of what made it all click for me, and being like, okay, like it's really important to get a lot of likes on your photo right after you post it. The second factor for the algorithm is relationship. So it's really, tries to tailor it to people that you regularly interact with on Instagram,
Sure.
So for example, my mom has like 40 followers on Instagram. So she's obviously not getting a ton of engagement right away on her posts, but because I interact with her all the time, her posts are always at the top of my feed, and I never miss my mom's posts. So, same thing if you're like, go on a liking spree and, if you're in the deep dark holes of Instagram and you're like going through an event and going to all the different people at the event, then you're going to see a lot more photos from those people recently.
Sure.
And then the third one is the time spent on that post. So going back to why you love creating awesome captions is creating engaging captions that even if, make people stay on your post a little bit longer, that also is a positive signal boost to Instagram that your post is worth showing more people. So whether it's they're staring at the actual photo for longer, and I just thought of this right now. I'm wondering if like multi-post helps with that as well, because people spend longer because they're like flipping through the photos. But totally. Same thing of why videos or boomerangs, which are just videos, why those perform so well, because people are spending longer watching them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned comment pods, and I want to cover that real quick for those who have not gotten that deep into Instagram. Comment pods, I've joined a couple myself just to see how they worked and to see if I could find any, boost from them. A comment pod is basically where you sign up, could be on a website or some other place where you sign up to be a part of a group direct message on Instagram, where you and other like-minded people are in the same DM. And when somebody posts on Instagram, they share it to that group. And so they might post their, like, hey, I just posted this photo. And it's an understanding that when somebody shares that within the group, your responsibility then as a group member is to go and like that post and to comment on the post. And I've read a couple other places that it needs to be more than like 3 words. So it can't just be like awesome or like a thumbs up emoji or something. Like it needs to be an actual sentence. And so the idea with the comment pod is that you have a group of people who are going to jump on your post right after you post it, or hopefully shortly after you post it, and make comments and then there's kind of this game, right? Like sometimes people they make a comment, but then the original poster, the person who owns the content, they go back in and they respond to it. And they're trying to get the conversation going a little bit in there, which I think is great. And, understand the purpose behind it, because you want to get further distribution, among your followers. So if Instagram sees that there's this conversation going on there, it means that it must be, better content. And so we're going to serve it to more percentage of your followers instead of throttling it back a little bit. Let's jump to stories. Let's jump to live only for a second, because I discovered early on when doing Instagram Live for Studio 540, the jiu-jitsu gym where I train, that when I jumped on Instagram Live, one of the most intimidating things at first was that I'd be talking to 2 or 3 people, and it's just like, this feels lame. It just felt so defeating, Well, I realized that when there were comments and likes, it felt like there was a boost in viewership. And so what I started doing, I had a whole rig. I had like a little tripod with an external mic and everything,
nice.
Try to keep everything high quality,
Yeah.
So, what I did was I'd start the live, and this was before you could leave them there for 24 hours or save them and post them elsewhere. So the first, 30 seconds is kind of disposable. I would basically just start the live and I'd go, hey guys. And every time I'd see a name pop up, I'd say hi to that person. And I'd try to pronounce the Instagram handle and just try to hey, thanks for being here. Love that you're always in here when we go live. Thanks for being a part of the show, whatever. And then I'd say, hey, can you guys just hit that like button a couple times if you can hear me okay? I'm using an external mic. So if you can hear me, drop
smart.
Yeah, right? I thought it was a clever little hack, because now I'm just looking for a basic couple of likes or a couple emojis, drop me a thumbs up emoji if you can hear me okay. I need to do a mic test real quick. And okay, I don't want to be manipulative, or I don't want to lie to people, but in all honesty, I was using an external mic, and we need to make sure things are working well. But it helped in the distribution. I noticed that it always helped. I would notice that the people in the room went to more like 20 to 30. This account has, by the way, talk about defeating. This account has 30,000 plus followers on Instagram. And on any given live, there's maybe 30 people watching the live. So it's why can't we get more people in the live? But anyway, I love now that it's 24 hours. You can leave your live broadcasts on Instagram so people can go back and watch them. I actually happen to like that feature.
I haven't seen it in practice. I haven't seen a full session yet. I know it exists, but
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, as a viewer or someone who's consuming the media, unless it's a really amazing live, I'm not really watching the whole thing. If it's a 20-minute thing, it does have a skip feature where it skips ahead a few seconds. You just kind of tap it and it'll skip ahead, or you can go back. But I like that it's there. In the beginning, I loved that live disappeared completely, because I felt like as a broadcaster or a personality, I was still not totally sure of myself. So I actually loved doing Instagram Live before I would do a Facebook Live, and I would use the Instagram Live basically as a practice run where I could kind of work out the kinks, and then I knew Instagram Live just disappeared. Nobody could ever go back and watch it. And then when I did the Facebook Live on the same topic, I felt more rehearsed and better prepared for it. But yeah, so Instagram Live, what's your take? How can a business use Instagram Live, or maybe even specifically a photographer? How can they use Instagram Live to help grow engagement or find clients, or to just, use it to their advantage?
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying earlier, this is a super new feature and not a lot of people are using it. So with that comes some definitely opportunities to become really awesome at it. And it also allows you to just kind of try things and not have to be perfect at them. So I think that's pretty cool. Q&As are always a really awesome thing to do if you are just have no idea what to do. Doing Q&As, people can ask you questions, they could submit questions before. But I mean, if you're out on like a really awesome set, or you're like, traveling somewhere and you're doing a shoot and it's like amazing light and everything looks so cool, like going live for a few minutes and just kind of, showing people what you're up to and what's happening is awesome. I mean, you can also, I think education is such a great thing that people are always wanting to know. So, whether that's doing Instagram live of, how you're setting up your camera settings for like to shoot at this X light or something like that, or, like the editing process. So many people are interested in that. And so I like seeing a lot of before and afters. And you see that on Instagram stories too, where people will post like the original photo they took, and then the edited version, and to kind of like, and to talk about like which tools they use. So I think all of that stuff can be great on Instagram Live. And yeah, it's just whatever you feel comfortable with, It's so much of the live content. There's a tab on Instagram that will show you like the top live videos right now, and so many of them are just people like sitting in their bedrooms like talking.
I have been so confused.
Have to be,
yes.
Yeah.
Are you confused by that as well? Like
generational thing? I don't know.
Right. Like I've tuned into some of those that are on, the Instagram curated like top live. And I just do not get it. How are there thousands of people tuned in to listen to this person just basically talk about nothing, when there are so many great lives that are out there, but maybe they only have 10 people in the room or 15 people in the room or something. I feel like that's the biggest obstacle to overcome, even having an account that has significant followers. Getting them to join you on live is not always easy. And, getting people to stay in the room is not always easy. That's another defeating thing with live as well. Like when you have a smaller account and you see maybe there's 2 people and then it drops to 1 and then it drops to 0, you're like, your mind is like, oh crap. Like I lost my whole audience.
Yeah.
Oh, but
it's hard too. 'Cause Instagram Live is solely mobile. So usually people are kind of like doing things like little spurts at a time and then going back to something, and they're I think that the being only on the mobile phone makes it a lot harder versus Facebook Live. For example, we did one later where we were auditing people's Instagram accounts, and we were on for an hour, and I think the live we had about maybe, what was it, like 12 or 1,300 people watch it, but then the next 2 days after, that number rose to 9,000.
Right.
So, it just goes to show like people sometimes like to have the power to watch at their when it's convenient for them, instead of just having to be like glued to your phone. And
sure, I do feel like that's.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, as much as I love like Kim Kardashian, if she goes live on Instagram and I'm like in a meeting at work, like there's not really much I can do about that,
Totally. I do agree that it seems like Facebook Live has so much more reach, when you leave a Facebook Live on your Facebook page and it can be distributed to the audience, trickled out over time, and, maybe the algorithm gets woken back up and serves it again or whatever. I feel like you do get some great reach on Facebook Live, even after the fact, well after the fact. But Instagram Live, of course, now that this new feature allows you to have it on for 24 hours, I think that's good, but, we're yet to see how to really leverage that and use that to our advantage. But I do like that it's there. But I agree, like, when people tune into a live, I've done it before. Somebody starts a live and I jump in, but I'm right in the middle. I'm like in the line at the grocery store or something. I'm not really able to watch it. And I think on Instagram, we always feel like, since we've been trained that Instagram Live just disappears on you, we're all kind of trained like, oh, we got to see something. We got to see what's going on because it disappears. And then you jump on for a few seconds. It's not that amazing. And then you just leave. So, I mean, I think that does mean something, right? Like if you're going to do a live, maybe be prepared, kind of have a game plan and have an idea of what you're going to talk about, and make it as engaging as possible. I always try to call out the people who are joining the room, and I see that, there might be like 10 or 20 people kind of joining within a short amount of time, but the total number of people in the room doesn't change a whole lot. So that tells me people are dropping as well. But I found that when I call people's names out, they tend to stick around a little bit longer, and I goof on myself because a lot of Instagram names are just hard to pronounce. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I just goof on myself. If I see one that I don't really know how to pronounce, I just try, and then I just laugh at myself. And I just tell them, I say, hey, you guys, you got to make these Instagram handles a little easier for me to understand, because I just can't pronounce that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, I was talking with a photographer friend who did their first Instagram live yesterday. And, they were kind of like, oh, how do I use it? How would I use this? And what are some ideas? And I thought, well, I mean, when you go to a photo shoot, there's an excitement, a level of excitement that you've got as a photographer. When you leave a photo shoot, same thing. There's a level of excitement that you have. And maybe it's one of those things where you show up, you're there before your client. You can go live for a few minutes and just say, hey, everybody, I'm here at this amazing location. I'm about to do a photo shoot with a family, or do some portraits. And, look at this place. There's so many options for photos over here. I'm really excited about this. You can kind of describe your game plan for the photo shoot. And then even afterwards, you can kind of report back on how it was, and, how excited you were, how excited the client was. Again, it kind of goes back to showing people the personality of the person behind the business, the photographer that they're going to work with. And, I feel like that's a really great way to use live, or even using stories for that, to kind of show people the behind the scenes of what it looks like to be on a photo shoot with this photographer.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. I think I'm learning more about Instagram Live from you.
Nice. Well, I love the Facebook Live that you guys did, the Instagram audit. I wasn't able to watch the whole thing, but just such a great idea, and I hope that you guys do more of those. If anybody's listening at the moment, I'll put all this in the show notes, but, go to the Later Facebook page, go look at their content there. It's all really, really in-depth and really easy to consume. I feel like it's, boneheads like me can understand it. So, I feel like you guys do such a great job putting out great content, educating people on the best practices of Instagram. And your support is amazing. If I ever have a question about a feature, or just have a question about Instagram or whatever, your guys' Facebook group has been incredibly helpful. I've had a chance to talk with a couple people, just kind of want to pick my brain on how I use Later, and they want to, they were thinking of like features for Later and stuff. So I love that you guys are very active, proactive, and talking with the people that you serve and the people that subscribe. But you guys just contribute so much to the world as well. So good job. High fives to you. Parting question for you. If you could call Instagram today and mandate one new feature, what would it be?
I think I have the same answer that probably everybody has.
Tell me.
Clickable links and captions.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Agreed.
Or whatever. I don't think when they add links to posts, I don't think it will be like a clickable link. It'll probably be something like something like a button, not like a button, or like some other thing. Like it won't be your typical like click this link.
Yeah. But
yes, the ability to like send people to a website. I'm just so tired of, like, obviously we have a shoppable Instagram feed called Link in Bio, but yes. I'm very, I think everyone says link in bio in like every Instagram caption, and I'm just ready for like, I'm ready for Instagram to upgrade. But now we can add links and stories, so that's a huge step forward, and that's like super exciting. For businesses, because it's like the first time you were able to link out besides the link in your bio. So
it's amazing. Yeah.
I think it's coming. I mean, will it come in 2017? Not sure, but
Yeah, well, they are making progress towards that. Did you notice that in DMs, if you give a website address, it actually links out? Did you notice that?
I noticed that the other day.
So that's progress. So they're taking baby steps.
And Snapchat just came out with the ability to add links to snaps. So and they don't have the restrictions that Instagram does. So in order to add links to Instagram stories, you A, have to be on a business account.
Right.
And B, you have to have a minimum of 10,000 followers. Mm-hmm. But now Snapchat is making it so like anyone can add any link to any snap. So considering how Instagram likes to copy Snapchat, maybe that's a positive thing. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, what a fun conversation. We kind of covered all types of issues, all kinds of topics with Instagram. I really, really appreciate all of your insight. And man, I have to say, maybe not everything I've learned about Instagram has come from you and the team at Later, but certainly a high percentage of it. A lot of it has. So thank you.
I'm glad it's so helpful. That's great to hear.
Thank you so much for all the knowledge that you share with us, and have a great day. Let's talk soon, okay?
Okay. Chat later.
Take care.